Hi, I'm Mauricio Schiller and you're listening to the Schulering Hub, a podcast gathering hospitality professionals from around the world to talk about what hospitality is and what it isn't, and their lives, the innovations, and the ideas that set some businesses apart and others not. We also talk about the future, the trends, and recently we embarked on a journey to search for happiness in hospitality. What makes hospitality a happy place? What are the hurdles that block happiness from happening? And what can we do to overcome them? I invite you to be part of this journey. We make this for you, so I hope you enjoy it.
And I also share to this student 3 segments of working life. The first 10 years, the second 10 years, and the third 10 years of working life. So the first 10 years is when you begin, you learn as much as possible, regardless how much money you're going to earn. At the beginning, you learn and you start building your reputation, because reputation is also what is going to follow you in the future. The second 20 years is when you grow. You grow because you learn for 10 years. So you start growing your career and you compound your career growth over 10 years. But you keep building your reputation. That never stops. And the last 10 years of your working life is when you start getting, the fruits of your hard labor.
Hello and thanks for joining the Schulering Hub, a podcast talking hospitality. My name is Mauricio Schiller and we invite guests from around the world to share their views about the industry so we can learn something new. In today's show, our guest is my dear friend Rocco Bova, a smiley, experienced hospitality professional followed by more than 80,000 people on LinkedIn alone due to his colorful career spanning over 11 countries in some of the biggest brands in the world. We discuss finding happiness in hospitality, where Rocco shared how finding the right life partner is essential for hospitality professionals. But he emphasized the importance of passion for the industry to endure the hard labor, and the importance of mentorship and how the 3 phases of our career influence the very end. Also, we touch on the evolving role of leadership in hospitality. So relax and learn something new with Schulering today. Hey yo, lovely people, and welcome back to another episode of the Schulering Hub podcast, Talking Hospitality. Today we are talking about our quest for happiness in hospitality, something that we started in the beginning of the year, and it excited us to learn how we could make this industry a little bit of a happier place for our staff. And I decided to get back to our best friends here in the community, people that have supporting us from the beginning and have a lot of experience to share, a lot of knowledge as well. So for this episode today, I have no other than Rocco Bova to talk to us. Hello, Rocco. How are you?
Hi, Mauricio. So lovely to see you. And it's also happiness, when we are on this virtual call.
That's true. We always can share that genuine smiles that we have because we do like each other. It's awesome to have you here. And Rocco, just for anyone here that doesn't know you, are not one of your 84,000 followers. Yeah, you've worked in some of the biggest names, biggest brands in the industry, like Intercontinental, Hilton, Four Seasons, Jumeirah Beach. What else can you tell us that you work for? And if you want to get Rocco's full story, we share so many laughs, and he told us his professional life in episode 14 of the Schulering Hub. Just go back there. We are in 73, I think, of this one. So just go back to 14 and get Rocco's full story. But Rocco, it's a pleasure to have you here. Tell us a little bit of you and, of course, your beautiful project, My Humble House.
Thank you, Mauricio. So briefly, I'm from Italy, 53 years old, going to 54. and still very happily married to a wonderful woman from Portugal. I got 2 kids and been working in the industry for about 30 years and still loving it every single moment. Every morning when I wake up, I think about hospitality in a formal shape. And after working for about 27 years into operating hotels with different brands, 11 countries, I still live in Mexico since 7.5 years. I decided to move into consultancy, and I help in independent owners or investors into developing a boutique hotel, because I decided to work for small boutique hotels or investors that they want to build this more humanized way of providing services to others, because big box hotels, they're no longer for me. I decided that big brands, they already know everything. Why should I work with them? They know almost everything, and they have resources that most independent owners, they don't have. So I decided to focus on helping small investors, and sometimes, it's like a 10-room hotel, and I provide basically the know-how and the advice, so their project can be a success story. And I'm having a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it even more than before, because operation, I still miss the operation, to be honest, but I like also to help as many people as possible. And I work mainly in Mexico, but I did some work in Puerto Rico, in Saudi Arabia, Bali, and let's see what next.
Well, what is the most exciting part of being a consultant nowadays compared to the operational side?
Well, let me tell you first what was not the most exciting. Okay. Because the first year was a very challenging for me to switch from operation to, like office work or virtual work. It was very difficult to understand, and to navigate through the challenges of telling people what to do, and most of the time not being really in charge of the decision, not being able to go through until the end of the decision-making process, because you go observe, audit, provide a report, to provide all the resources, but then your job is over. The decision is no longer in my hands as a consultant. So it was a bit difficult to accept and navigate through. Now I got it better. Now I'm a bit more cool about that, and if the client at the end decide not to do it, that's okay. It's not something I can control. So that was the most difficult part to manage, and to control. Now the most exciting challenge is or results, that I enjoy personally, at least, is actually going through from one project to another project, one specific direction to another one completely different, maybe. So now I have this portfolio of clients that, somebody wants to do this and the other one wants to do that. And so it's very exciting, very colorful, to be able to switch from A to B. And I guess that keep me interested and motivated and looking forward for the next one, and also, the happy part is also that I do what I love most. So, it keeps me really, engaged, definitely.
Yeah, we can feel like the passion when you speak, about that, the challenge and getting some new projects in hospitality and trying to get inside people's minds. But in episode 14, we actually spent a lot of time talking about my humble house, right? And how is the project going? Where is it at today?
Well, I brought the news a couple of days ago, last week, where I announced the first milestone, the first big milestone of my humble house, which is 53 hectares of land in Yucatan. We managed to, through some investors, we managed to secure this land, and between now and September, I will begin working with some architects who also are part of the project and part of the, the associate, basically, to this project. And we will start to work on the design. And from there, between now and the end of the year, we should be able to actually secure additional founders and, the formation of the company, and then eventually next year, beginning of construction. So, fingers crossed. I'm actually putting ahead my vision. I would like this to be really confirmed 100%. But like most companies, they say things that maybe take a year or more, or a year and a half more. But I want to put this vision forward and say this is what's happening. So I'm very happy and very excited to see also this dream coming to birth. That's very important. And the next step, between now and September, October, I should be able to tell you more.
And for our audience that don't know My Humble House, are you able to explain in 1 minute?
Sure. My Humble House is a hotel and residence concept. It's low density building, which means that we respect the environment as much as possible. We don't want to have a 300-room hotel. It's only 25-unit hotel and 25-unit residences. This is possibly the world's first profit-sharing company. So we will, as a part of the employment contract of team members, there will be a profit-share component, which means that the people that work at My Humble House will enjoy also net profit once this is gonna start to materialize, because the net profit doesn't happen one day to the next. But we wanted to make sure that we have a business model that is different from the rest.
Robert, I'm very excited to see My Humble House actually becoming this hotel and seeing it working. I think that will be such a new refreshing idea and the business model for the industry that can really change things up. So I'm fingers crossed here that everything is going to work out well and we follow that milestones, that timeline, and everything goes as planned. I'm really wishing for that. But let's get educating a little bit our audience, but it's more about that quest for happiness in hospitality, because you worked with many of the big brands, now consulting with independent hotels. We worked in 11 countries, so you have such a rich experience to share. And I would like to know, how can one be happier at work in hospitality?
I may repeat, maybe what other people said in the past. At the end of the day, if you don't find your ikigai, if you don't find your calling, if you don't find exactly what you dream for, this is not gonna happen. This is not gonna happen. That's to me is rule number one. So you need to find your calling. You need to really know that your vocation is working in hospitality. If that's what it is, then you're gonna start the process of becoming a very happy person. And that's not very difficult to know, because you just need to get your hands dirty into the hospitality, understand the sacrifice that you need to make, and try to focus on that immediately the first few years of your career. And then if it's not for you, then change completely direction. There's no point to keep trying it. Maybe you fall in love with it. Love should be at first sight. You don't need to keep looking for better and better and better. It's either what you love or what you don't. Now, the second recipe or the second ingredient is that you find the right partner in life. A lot of people say, behind a successful man, there is a great woman. I mean, that in my case, obviously, is, because I'm heterosexual, there are a lot of people that they are not, they might have another man or they might have another woman. So as long as you find the right partner in crime, only then you can become happy. Because imagine that you are very happy at work, but you're not at all happy at home. That's not happiness, because the more you can switch from a completely happy person to a completely unhappy person, this is gonna influence your life in the long term, your work in the long term, your relationship in the long term. So I recommend you that you don't want to do that. You need
very well.
You need to find this balance at home and at work. It's very difficult to find it in our business because we need to concentrate a lot of working hours, so we need to stay on site. And I challenge, these people that they say work-life balance. Work-life balance does not exist. in my planet, at least, in my world. It doesn't exist. It exists only when you find a partner that understands what you put at work results what you get at home. So imagine I work my 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. I've got my 30 days holiday every year. I don't take responsibility for my work because I did my 8 hours, so I'm good to go now. And I challenge that, because if you're only willing to do 8 hours and you don't care what happened on the 8.1 hour, I challenge the result of your future life. And actually, if you want to, I can actually pull out a little post from Max Starkov. Have you heard of him?
No.
Okay, so Max Starkov, who is also a person in quite popular on LinkedIn, has been there actually for quite some time, and is very popular in terms of technology, and he has a lot of knowledge in terms of the latest technology applicable to hotels. And just some time ago, he published something. That it was, for me, very revolutionary, if at all, or if I can say a wake-up call for the younger generation. If you allow me, I want to read this loud to the audience. It only takes a minute. So Max Starkov is on LinkedIn, and you can follow him or you can invite him. So he said the following: the very naive work philosophy about maintaining quality of life. Recently, Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi highlighted the concept of career compounding. Beyond the company or title, it's about impactful work, continuous learning from a dedicated team, and a shared drive for impact. I'm flabbergasted by recent college graduates who profess the work philosophy of working only enough so not to spoil their quality of life. Quality of life work philosophy in your 20s means that you will have no quality of life in your 60s, 70s, and 80s. It is as simple as that.
Sorry to interrupt. If you're enjoying the show and if you're learning something new today, please consider following the show, subscribe to our channel, or leave us a review. It helps us to help more people through the podcast, and it would mean the world to us. Thank you for listening, and we're back on the chat.
Working hard, very hard, especially in the first 10 or 15 formative years after college, allows you to decide smartly by exploring different professions and career paths, what you want to do with your life, learn and become an expert in a chosen profession, and lay solid foundation to your career or help you launch your own business. In other words, secure you for life and allow you to retire early and in style. This is what career compounding is all about. Quiet quitting and doing only the very minimum at work, not to get fired, won't help you achieve that. That's a big statement.
Yeah, it's a big statement. What it makes interesting when you're reading that, and my brain straight away compared our working life to our school, our education life, right? And basically, if you start allowing this ideology that you should only work the minimum possible to enjoy life, that means that we can start getting younger and say okay, we should just go and study the minimum enough so we enjoy life, right? And the study, we start with compounding as well. We start reading so you can read more complex things. We start with mathematics so you can study more complex things. And then you get compounding on the knowledge we learned before so you can get all the knowledge and have that rationalization of what I want to do with my life. And this movement, as well as the canceling movement, are just two very short-sighted movements that basically the people that are canceling today are not thinking that in 20 years they be the ones canceled because the ideology just changed. So it's really short-sighted. And thank you for sharing. Thank you for reading this, because it makes us think. Really, happiness comes from inside. So work as well, right? It's an output.
I'm going to share the screenshot of this article so you can keep it as well for yourself. In fact, recently, last month, I was in Holland at the hotel school of The Hague, the same school where my son is studying right now. And I did a short 1-hour class with a bunch of students there. And I read exactly the same one. And I told them, be careful of what you're choosing in your life, because now you are in your early 20s. But when you reach 50 or 60, what would you do? You cannot go back in time and change the past. You're done. So be careful of deciding what you're going to do now, because that will decide what you're going to do in 20 or 30 years. And I also shared to this student 3 segments of working life. The first 10 years, the second 10 years, and the third 10 years of working life. So the first 10 years is when you begin, you learn as much as possible, regardless of how much money you're going to earn. At the beginning, you learn and you start building your reputation, because the reputation is also what is going to follow you in the future. The second 20 years is when you grow. You grow because you learn for 10 years. So you start growing your career and you compound your career growth over 10 years. But you keep building your reputation. That never stops. And the last 10 years of your working life is when you start getting, the fruits of your hard labor. Because for 20 years you learned, you grew, now you start collecting the fruits. But the reputation building never stops. That continues. And the learning never stops. That continues. So it can bring you to the last phase of your career where you can be a consultant, do nothing, because you already built an amount of money that can allow you to retire early. A bit later to what Max was saying, in his, I have applied this since day one in my career. And at the school, I was not very good, to be honest. I was a very naughty student. I actually skipped school many times, and even being caught for it. I'm not very proud of that part of my life. But at the same time, I am, because I actually learned what not to be. Because you also need to learn from bad experience. You cannot only learn from good experience. You need to learn from bad experience. Would I be different if I would go back in time? No, probably not. I would be still a naughty boy and have fun. I had fun in a way. I cannot say otherwise. But that brought me to be a better person later in life. Actually got back to school at the age of 28, learned really quickly because I was hungry for knowledge, and that eventually brought me to what I am today, 30 years later.
I really like how you also put the idea that happiness is not only at the workplace, but you need to have that support at the home. Hospitality is not an easy start. It's long hours. Sometimes you don't know when you're going to finish, late in the evenings. And having someone that understands you at home, having someone that supports you and give you the energy that you need after giving so much during your shift is really valuable. So thank you for sharing that. But work-life balance, of course, in hospitality, it's quite challenging to measure. As you said, it's a thing that doesn't exist, right? Because you put and you work and you collect in the end. But what are the biggest challenges that to hospitality workers, that the roadblocks? What is stopping the happiness to happen? If I am a hospitality person, let's consider that someone that really loves the industry, but what is stopping them to enjoy the job?
I guess that younger people should find a mentor, should find somebody or more than one to actually have a reflecting time with this person, because very often we think we know enough, or because we can search things on the internet, or because somebody on TikTok said something and, that's all reality. I guess that whatever you can find online is relatively good. You still need to confront yourself with real people, real professionals that have been in the business for a number of years, and they can give you real life experiences. They can tell you, and I'm not saying that my life is same as your life, but my experience or an example about my experience can provide you a different way to think about your own experience, can provide you a different point of view, can provide you a perspective that can allow you to say, okay, I didn't think about that, and then maybe change your direction. For example, I've been mentoring a number of people that they were tired, they wanted to give up, they wanted to throw the towel and want to resign. I say, I've done this already. I've been trying to look for greener pasture, and there were no greener pasture anywhere at the end. So then I decided to find the greenest pasture in the place where I was, try to make the most of it for that period of time. When I was tired, I just moved on. No regret, no thinking this company is so bad and they criticize. There's nothing to criticize. Just make the most of it, give as much as possible, get as much as possible from the company. So at least it's a good give and take. You give, but you take also. At the end of the day, it's a win-win situation. There's no point to complain and discredit the company by saying these people, are useless, they don't take care of people, and I just move on. The world is big, you have so many hotel companies out there. Why focusing only on one?
That's true, Rocco. That's a great point. So if I can think, how could, as an hotelier, as a manager, how could I improve the employee morale so to help them to be happier in a place? I know that you already said that they must have the DNA, they must have hospitality in the blood and enjoy what they're doing. But sometimes we get tired, as just you have that passion, and sometimes you get tired. So as a manager, how can we improve the morale of the team to keep them motivated?
You brought up a good point, and as a manager, how can we do that? What happens is that leadership skills have somehow changed over time. The old style hoteliers, the passionate host, is a dying species, unfortunately, because more and more companies, or the bigger companies, they need to provide results to investors. And the result, they need to be tangible. And in order to be tangible, they need to be measurable in dollars, or positioning of the brand, or return on investment. By following these rules and schemes and let's say new model, obviously no matter how good you are in hosting guests or team members and motivating them and so on and so forth, you still, at the end of the day, you need to provide this basic measurement back to the company. This, unfortunately, is a very difficult balancing act, to be able to deliver the numbers to the company and be a good leader to your team member, because you need to focus so much of your time in thinking, brainstorming, delivering strategies, in order not to lose focus on your key performance indicators, because it's becoming less and less relevant how the guest feels, because there is a software anyway reading, whether your brand is well positioned or not. Are you likely to recommend me to another person? I mean, that I didn't learn this in hospitality 30, 40 years ago. I learned in a different way. So I accept and understand, that these indicators are very important for big company, because they're public listed company, because they have investors, they have shareholders to respond to. But I really hope that this big company, that they own 60% of the market anyway. So if you take Accor, Hilton, Intercont, Marriott, Wyndham, and so on and so forth, they own 60% of the market. 40% is independent or smaller groups, but 60% of the majority of the market is actually owned by big companies. So I pledge, for them to think about how can they influence investors, not just to focus on return on investment, and to focus also on really focus on people and really focus on the guest experience, but real guest experience, not digital guest experience. That's not guest experience for me. Digitalization is not going to produce a personal connection with guests and clients, and even staff per se. You know, how can you build a connection with an individual, with a team member, if you have an application talking to them, if you have a chatbot asking me, hi, hello, Rocco, how do you feel today? I mean, give me a break. Really? Is this personalization? No, I don't believe that. So I really make a pledge for big company to really think about personalizing this experience for guests and personalizing a team member experience so that they can really feel a sense of belonging for the brand.
And how would that be actually an opportunity for you as a consultant to help teams?
Well, I do this in the smaller investors. You know, I don't consult for big brands because, as I said at the beginning, it's very little I can provide for the big brands. They know it all, and you know, even if they employ me, they will ask me the same question they would ask anyone else. So, you know, my game is actually in helping small investors into real hospitality, into the host, being a host, into understanding how to build a relationship, long-term relationship. There is still a large community of Generation X, which is my generation, our generation, and probably the millennial, the later part of millennial, plus baby boomers, which are still alive, and probably they have another 10 years of life. So there's still a good chunk of population in the world that need to have this old-fashioned hospitality. Maybe the newer generation, or the generation Y and Z and whatever else is coming later, they might change their needs. But even that, I'm still in the belief that 10% of that newer generation may want to have a personal, communication with a human being, not just with a chatbot.
Yeah, like it's something that kind of worries me a little bit, that I can see at the table, like having dinner with friends, and their kids are really not interacting, right? Like they are not. They just, and how it will affect the relationship or the market itself for us, like that's talking about numbers. But in the future, it's really puzzling, right? Because if someone starts to lose the interest of having human connections, how we survive as a species, right? Like there's one thing that we still need to keep connecting. But it's really interesting that you say that the core of hospitality is that human connection, at least for us, that a little bit older generation right now, and what will come and how we're gonna create that new hospitality with this new needs is something that we'll learn. But Rocco, we're getting to the end here. We have such a deep chat. We didn't even cover all that we wanted to talk, but that's lovely. That's why you're gonna.
Time flies when people are having fun, isn't it?
Yes, 100%. So Rocco, just how can our audience get in touch with you if they still haven't?
Well, you can follow me on LinkedIn. Unfortunately, I cannot accept any more invitation because I've reached the limit. Unless LinkedIn is going to open the limit to maybe 50,000 or 100,000, then in that case, I can accept it. But happy to follow each other. I'm very active on LinkedIn. That's where I invest most of my time because it's a more B2B and a little bit less contaminated, compared to other platforms. So you can find me there, and I'm very happy to follow that.
As always, Rocco, we're going to put your link down here in the notes so our audience can follow you, try to get in touch with you. But always a pleasure to have you on the show. I'm sure that you're going to be back here at some point, sharing your smile, sharing your knowledge. That's going to be on YouTube now, so we can actually see that beautiful face, this beautiful smile, get some inspiration from you. Thank you very much for joining me, Rocco.
Always a pleasure, Mauricio.
Schulering, thank you for listening. I'll see you next time. Bye. If you enjoyed the show, please consider sharing it with your friends and colleagues, and also check other episodes. We have produced 70 plus conversations with hospitality leaders, putting a lot of love and care, and I'm sure you'll find something you like here. Feel free to send me an email on mauricio@schulering.com. Mauricio is Mauricio at Schulering, SCHULERING.com. Sharing your thoughts, sharing your love. That's all for today. See you next time.